Alright everybody, I hope you're ready for some cosmic mythology, because this issue of Green Lantern War Journal dives pretty deep into the origins of the Dark Star. So let's talk about it. Green Lantern War Journal number 9 is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Montos, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Dave Sharp. The title of this issue is Myth and Legend. Lantern Shepherd is in Guy Gardner's apartment, attempting to use the Book of Oa to locate John Stewart. Unfortunately, it's a history book and not a search engine, so Shepherd has to figure out what other relevant topics to read up on to gain some kind of clue as to where John could have gone. He tries looking for the Radiant Dead and the Revenant Queen, but neither of them have entries in the book. Then Shepherd remembers what John said when they first arrived in the jungle, how the markings carved into all of the trees were the symbol of the Dark Stars, so he looks up the earliest recorded entry pertaining to them. An immeasurably long time ago, before Lanterns and Manhunters, before anyone from the planet Maltus even deemed themselves to be Guardians, the crew of a Malthusian ship was in search of a power that would let them bring order to their chaotic universe. They stumbled across a long-dead city, a necropolis, hidden away in an uncharted region of space. The necropolis contained monuments to old dead gods, permeated by their crystallized blood. So, in other words, it's Genesis, the same power source that Steel used to jumpstart John's current ring. The Malthusians were excited because this is exactly the kind of power source they were looking for. But the necropolis was guarded by a lone watchkeeper who was powerful enough to turn them away. He warned them that if this sacred place is ever disturbed or desecrated, the will of the Elder God would awaken. So the Malthusians left, only to return with greater numbers. They defeated the Watchkeeper and went to claim the power of the crystallized blood for themselves. But as they did, a light began to glow in the base of a monument to a fallen goddess. This light would become known as the Dark Star of the Fen. The Malthusians mined as much of the crystallized blood as they could, and discovered that by holding on to pieces of it, their own bodies became able to channel the light of willpower, specifically the will of Olgrun, and even shape that light into weapons and armor. And for a while, these Malthusians became a super team who helped bring order to the universe just like they wanted. For a time, the universe would remember them as the Knights of the Dark Star. But the Dark Star itself was growing. The will of Olgrun is sentient, and it lashed out in an attempt to punish those who desecrated the necropolis. The leader of the Knights entered the crypt to try and take control of the situation at the source. That's where she found it. The vessel containing Olgrun's willpower, the source of the power wielded by the Knights, and the origin point of the Dark Star of the Fen. It was a ring belonging to Queen Ajna, the same ring that we've seen the Revenant Queen use to possess mortal bodies. Trying to claim the ring only served to open the floodgates. An eruption of power destroyed the necropolis, and countless dead warriors glowing with the radiant light of Olgrun's willpower came pouring out of the Dark Star of the Fen. In life, they were Olgrun's loyal servants, and in death, they fight as an extension of his will. The Malthusians fought back against the horrors they unleashed, and the Knights of the Dark Star would go down in history as their greatest sin. Over time, the people of the planet Maltus would do their best to bury these events and hide their shame, going so far as to erase all records of the Knights. But legends never truly die. Billions of years later, when the Controllers built a corps of their own to rival and replace the Green Lanterns, they named it the Dark Stars, after those ancient, legendary warriors. While Shepherd continues reading the Book of Oa, John Stewart is busy helping his makeshift army of mostly scientists get to cover before it's too late. The attacks have stopped for the moment, but that's not the only danger. The energy radiating from the Dark Star of the Fen can turn you once you've had enough exposure to it. They don't explicitly say this, but it basically seems to be the same as a Radiant Dead infection, only it comes from the environment. John doesn't like fighting so defensively, not when they've got limited resources and manpower. Byla tells him that a direct confrontation is pointless, because as long as the Revenant Queen stays up there inside of the Dark Star of the Fen, wearing the Dark Star ring, she wields Olgrun's will inside of a world made from Olgrun's will. Under those circumstances, she should be unbeatable. So John's like, Okay, got it. I just have to fly up there, enter the Dark Star, defeat the Revenant Queen, take her ring, and then it's over. You guys wait here. Byla can't even believe he's hearing this. John is the only person who might possibly be able to get all of these people out of here alive, and the one thing John wants to do is throw himself headfirst into the one situation where the enemy has all of the power. Though, I've gotta hand it to John. Pulling this kind of move, choosing to pit his own willpower against the willpower of the mightiest elder god ever to exist, all while assuming it'll work out fine? That is the most Green Lantern thing he could have possibly done. Hal would be very proud. John does his new trick, converting his body into light, and flies straight into the Dark Star of the Fen, to directly confront the will of Olgren at the source. Back on Earth, John's mom's condition is getting worse. Ellie hasn't been allowing the staff of Steelworks to continue her medical treatment, and now it's becoming harder to keep her docile within the illusion. Ellie is losing control of the situation, and she still hasn't found Varen. It turns out that since Varen can't enter the Construct house, he was hiding and waiting for someone to come out and search for him. Ellie's overconfidence allowed Varen to get the drop on her, injuring her while in a shadowy demonic form that quickly returns to the shape of John's abusive father. This stalemate in Steelworks is getting pretty intense. Varen can't penetrate Ellie's defenses, but Ellie won't be able to keep her mom there for much longer if her health keeps degrading. But if either of them leaves the safety of the construct, Varen is ready to strike. This is great because despite how powerful Ellie seems to be, there's no clear solution that will give her everything she wants. She can't get rid of Varen and guarantee her mom's safety and maintain this illusion. Something has to give, but any one of those dominoes could easily knock down the others. This is great, I love it, and at the same time I'm still suspicious of Ellie, because the previous page is the one that talks about the origin of the Knights of the Dark Star, and how the willpower they wield is ancient, sentient, and too powerful to control. And the words "too powerful to control" appear in a panel right next to Ellie, flashing a devilish grin as she rolls some dice. It's honestly kind of impressive how everything about John and Ellie is a mirror reflection of the enemy. The power of Olgren's will is the source of the Dark Star, and the foundation of the legend that inspired the Controllers to create their Dark Star army. John Stewart, a former member of the Dark Stars, now a being of living will, is going to confront the will of Olgren that began this whole cycle, but not before creating Ellie, who exists as a piece of him, of his memories, expressed through his willpower, just like all of the former servants of Olgren who pour out of the Dark Star. And the biggest question I have at this point is, if something very bad were to happen to their mom before John can make it back, what might Ellie do? I also wonder if Byla is one of the old gods who helped to dismember and scatter Olgren. He says that he deserves to be in this terrible place because he betrayed his brother for the sake of the universe. And some manner of godhood could explain why there are multiple versions or possibly aspects of Byla watching over each piece of Olgren. I think it's hilarious that all of this, is the Guardians' fault. Their past is filled with so many monumental mistakes that ended up unleashing untold horrors on the universe, it's kind of ridiculous. But I suppose this is where they first got the idea of using willpower as an energy source and containing it within a ring. I'm pretty sure this directly contradicts some things we learned about the history of Volthoom the First Lantern, but let's not think too hard about that right now. Guardian history is a complicated mess that we'll untangle another time. So that's it for issue number 9. What do you think? Is there any way that the stalemate between Ellie and Varen can end well? Is John making a huge mistake? Are you tired of everything bad always being the Guardian's fault? Tell me all about it in the comments section down below, and then be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because there are only 3 issues left before this series is over. I can't wait to see how it all ends and talk about it with all of you. So until next time, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.